All right, what's up, everyone? God is great. We're back here, and we got possibly the #1 name in the entire sales industry, Daniel G. He needs no introduction. If you follow him on Instagram, what's your Instagram? Daniel G?
Daniel G.
5 million plus followers,
Yeah.
trained thousands and thousands of salespeopeople. First off, Daniel, thank you for coming on to the YouTube and spending time with me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. It's been crazy because, I think the first time you and I met was, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, right
roughly?
when I moved to Miami.
Right. So what, 2 years almost now?
No, a year and a half. Months.
Okay, a year and a couple months. And just to see growth over, the year, like your business has exploded in the last year.
It's booming.
I would say there's been consistent momentum over the last year, right?
100%.
And I always tell people, I say sometimes people think it could take 5-10 years to become successful, but it's really not that. Like, you've made a series of decisions in order to become successful. It doesn't take people, 5 years to build $1 million business. Usually it takes people 5 years to get to a decision to build $1 million business.
Yeah.
It's like when people are like, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm like, okay, so you haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take you a year to lose weight.
Yep.
It could take you 3 months to lose weight. It's just when you make the decision to cut out the fast food and start going to the gym.
Yep.
So your decision, obviously I know a little bit about your story, was #1, starting a business, then #2, getting uncomfortable and moving to a different city where it's more active, getting out there with all the players, and those decisions grow your business. It's not just necessarily just work ethic, it's just making another decision. So it's been insane to see you grow over the last year.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Two of the biggest growth seasons of my life are when I made a decision to move, because I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I was stagnant for 19 years, broke, obviously wasn't surrounded by successful people. And it wasn't until I got uncomfortable and moved to Tampa, where I knew nobody, where I saw crazy growth happen just like that. And then same thing started to happen in Tampa. I was in a better position than I was in Pittsburgh, but I started to get comfortable. I felt like I was going through the motions, doing the same thing. I knew a ton of people everywhere I went. So I was like, I gotta level up, I gotta move somewhere else. Moved to Miami, same thing, didn't know anyone. You were one of the first people I actually met here in Miami.
Wow.
So it was another crazy explosion.
Crazy.
But to people watching, a lot of people always ask me, what's your #1 tip when you're getting into sales? Because keep in mind, I got into sales, I was 19 years old, I had no sales experience, I had no money to my name, none of that. But what I was very blessed to have was a great sales mentor who taught me how to think. He taught me sales tips, recruiting tips, leadership tips. So when people ask me, what's my #1 tip for people getting into sales? I say you gotta find a great mentor, you gotta ask the best questions, and you have to be the most coachable and work the hardest. Whatever they tell you, don't second guess it, don't add your own twist on top of it, just take what they tell you and run with it.
Yeah.
So for the viewers, you gotta realize Daniel has mastered sales, has mastered branding on social media. He's got over 5 million followers. I'm sure you've mastered recruiting and leadership. You have a team as well, right?
Yeah. I started building a team since I was 15.
Yeah, so you've become a master at all 4 of the best pillars needed in 2025 to crush it in sales and team building. So for the viewers, you have to understand, it's not every day you get to learn from somebody who's the best in their field. It would be like spending time with Tiger Woods. If you golf, imagine being someone that knows nothing about golf, and it's your first time getting into golf, and you get to ask 20 questions to Tiger Woods about his advice and get to know about his experience, so you can take those years of wisdom and trial and error, and I'm sure millions of dollars you've spent on other mentors or building your brand, and these viewers get that for free.
Yep.
I paid Daniel the first time we met, and I'm gonna pay you again today because I know your time is super valuable, but you guys get to watch this for free. You don't have to pay anything. But I do ask, if you're watching this, subscribe to the page, drop a comment, and share this with a friend to help someone else who's new in sales learn from one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. So what advice I would give to somebody, let's say if they're just starting off?
Well, I was gonna say, I have 20 questions prepared.
Let's rock.
Because proper preparation prevents poor performance. So I spent a lot of time making 100%. Sure the 20 questions I ask you are good. So my first one is, just so the viewers can get to know you a little bit, how did you even get into sales in the first place?
Yeah, I got into it. I always say this, whether it's my business now or when I first started, is always out of responsibility, never out of passion. Meaning, like, I was never passionate about sales, nor was I ever passionate about becoming a sales trainer, nor were you ever passionate about selling insurance and building a team.
True.
I got out of responsibility. I started my first sales job at 14 and a half when my parents split up, I seen a sign in my high school and it said, if you want to make $500 to $1,000 in commissions, sign up here. And I went to the guy, I said, dude, does commissions mean money? And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, sign me up, I'll do whatever for $500 on the weekend in commission. So I started my first direct door-to-door sales job at the age of 14, never looked back ever since. Made my first 850 in commissions on a Saturday and Sunday, knocking on doors. By 15 and a half, I was building out a team. And listen, I at a young age understood that there was a flaw in the messaging, the way we were being brought up, because everybody told me, hey, focus, so you can get good grades, so you can go to a good school, so you can make a lot of money. And the first weekend, Spence, when I made 850, my first weekend in commissions, I went to my teachers, my family, I'm like, you guys all lied to me. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I skipped your whole step because I already made the money.
Yep.
I didn't have to focus. I didn't have to get good grades so I can go to a good school. I already made the money, now what? So, I got out, I went inside of my business, my parents split up, and I got inside of my sales business just because of responsibility. And I do my business today because of responsibility too as well, which we could talk about after. Like, I just feel this need that I will never let somebody else. This is the way I run my business now, by the way. 7 years ago, I'm sitting down in my office. I was never a sales trainer. I trained sales just like you do to your team, but I was never like, I'm a sales trainer. I was training sales since I was 15 though. Like when somebody says, no, thank you, I'm not interested, get off my lawn, F you, whatever they want. I was dealing with the objection, training my team on it. Then at 23 years old, I started an agency where I start recruiting salespeople for other companies. I'm sitting down in my office. We're doing amazing. The online space is blowing up. Everybody needs salespeople. I'm the guy that gives somebody a salesperson.
Right.
Because I have this recruiting agency where people need salespeople. So if Spencer's like, yo, I need 10 salespeople, give me a week, I'll get you 10 salespeople. So I'm sitting down in my office and I'm now starting to go on Instagram and I see these sales trainers on Instagram. And I'm like, man, not for nothing, but they suck. Like, and what I meant by suck is like, I feel like I'm being educated by these people, like I'm in my classroom and they can't hold my attention. But I was always training sales. I had this one guy once walk in my office and he says, and you'll get a lot of signs from God to, make sure you're getting lined up.
For sure.
And one guy once came in my office, I'm training my team, older guy, older gentleman, and he said to me, he's like, hey, by the way, if you don't go show the world how good you are in sales, you'll be the best sales trainer that nobody ever knows. So I remember digesting that thought. And then one day I'm going online and I'm watching all these sales trainers online, blow up YouTube and Instagram. These are the early days, 2016, 17, okay? And what happens is I look at this and I say, man, I could train sales better than these guys. And it's not that I wanted to become a sales trainer, but I said, there's no way that I'm ever gonna let somebody with a weaker product outsell and touch more lives than myself. So I built my business. Like I had this urge where I'm like, no. How about that guy can't articulate a message to somebody like me that's ADHD, but I know how to do it. Yep. So I literally built my business because of responsibility. I said, I'm never gonna let somebody touch the sales space more than myself. I didn't build my business because I was passionate about it. I built it because I tell people this 24/7. I said, if you have a product that changes somebody's life, don't ever let your next door neighbor that has a weaker product and that cannot serve at a higher level than you can, don't ever let them outmarket you or outsell you, right? So that's how I built my business. And still to today, when somebody says, whether you say it or somebody in India or somebody says, hey, go travel out here or go to this country or go to this city, I say yes, because I do it out of a responsibility. I don't do it just because I'm passionate about it or I need to make money. I say, no, there's other people out there that need my product. I am my product. I'm not gonna let somebody outwork me or outsell me. So I always tell people, don't try to build a business because you're passionate about it. Build a business because you have responsibility, you have the desire to make money. Passion doesn't equal money inside of life. But hit the next question, let's go.
Yep.
I know we got 20.
Yep, so just to feed off that a little bit, when I was getting into sales, one of the reasons I stepped into the virtual life insurance sales game is because I joined an agency meeting once, which an agency meeting for our company is on Monday, every single Monday. They come on Zoom, they have the whole agency join, people from all over the country, and it's like, here's the top 20 income earners for last week that were selling life insurance. And I saw some of the people on there who were making like 25 grand a week. And I thought to myself, if that person with no college degree at 21 years old can make $25,000 a week, I know I can too. That's all I ever really needed to see is one other person doing it. But for me, I had like 20 people a week I saw making over 20 grand, no college needed, no sales experience needed. And I just thought, man, if they can do that, I could at least do half of that. Like, my inner competitor knew I could beat them, but even if I only did half of what I saw them doing, I'd still be in a way better position than I was currently in. So leading into the next question is, why is money important?
Why is money important?
Yeah, I feel like everyone in sales, to get into sales, you have to have some desire to make a lot of money. So from what you've experienced, why is money important?
Yeah, I mean, you know, money gives you the ability to have mental real estate. And what that means, it's like, you know, most people throughout their life, they can't think clearly because, you know, they don't have enough mental real estate because they're always thinking like, I gotta pay the next bill, I gotta pay the next bill, I gotta pay the next bill. And they don't have the mental real estate with their family. They don't have the mental real estate with, you know, their wife or their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their aunt and their uncle or their employees. Because we've all been in that situation where our relationships have been filled with stress and anxiety because we don't have the mental real estate towards the end of the month, because we're like, okay, I need to make another $2,000-$3,000 towards the end of the month. So I don't say money is everything. What I say, money gives you the mental capacity to think and be present with individuals, right, that are around you. And most people that watch this, you know, there's only two ways to think about money. Number one, you speak good about money, or number two, you speak negative about it. And what I mean by that is everybody talks about it regardless. Like, everybody talks about money.
True.
You know, like people that don't make money talk about money more than people that make money.
Facts.
Like 150%. If I go talk to one of my friends from high school that's like, oh man, you're always talking about money. I had this conversation with my family. I remember 2 Christmas ago at a dinner, they're like, you know, you're always talking about business and money. I said, so do you guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you guys just talk about it in lack. I talk about it in abundance. I'm always talking about how do we make more. You guys are always like, why is it so expensive? 2 different types of people. I swear, you can look at people and say, wow, the average human talks about money more than the rich and the wealthy. Always. They're always talking about the price is too high. Yep. I don't know if we should go to buy those tickets today, babe. We have to save up a little bit more. Wow, inflation's going crazy. But they just talk about it in a lack mindset. The other person's talking about it at a high frequency mindset where they're like, how do I make more? How do I get in more service? How does money just become a byproduct of who we become inside of life, right? They're talking about a very high frequency, rich and wealthy people. Everybody talks about it. It's just how you talk about money. And I guarantee you, broke people talk about money more than the rich and wealthy. So it's not about like, you know, of course money's important, but it's the energy that you provide to money. And by the way, most people, it's very hard for them to make money because the fear of money within itself. And what I mean by that is this: everything has a frequency inside of life. This car, this camera, this microphone, you and I, we all vibrate. If somebody says, think of your goal, and I go to let's say one of your sales guys, I say, think of your goal, and I say, think of your goal towards the end of the month, and they say my goal is $50,000. I say, great. When you think of that goal towards the end of the month, what do you feel? They're like, oh man, I'm a little bit scared. I said, well, yeah, because your mentor said set a goal that scares you, but you're never gonna hit your $50,000 if you're scared of money. Why? You are a human being. You're God's highest form of creation. Listen to this for a second. If you are putting money, a car, a Ferrari, if that thing scares you, then if you go look at the way energy is, at the bottom of energy, which is doubt, worry, fear, grudge, jealousy, bottom of the scale, okay? The goal within itself, just the thought of you thinking of $50,000, just the thought is putting you at a low vibration where you're already scared of the goal within itself. I said it is physically impossible to hit a $50,000 goal when just the thought of you making $50,000 already puts you in the lower brackets of frequency. I said most people that hit a $50,000 goal, they're like, oh, I can eat this thing like it's a plate of food.
Right.
I said, that's how you hit a goal. When you set a goal, you're not like, oh, I'm so scared of it. No, because you're gonna operate out of fear, worry, doubt, which is the bottom. Think of, if anybody's watching this is the best advice I can give you. Think of the thoughts that go through your mind when you think of your goal. And if it scares you, I know, contrary to what you've been taught, which is like set a goal that scares you, you will never hit it if it scares you. But if you set a goal where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna eat this goal like it's a bowl of pasta, you won't put the goal at a higher vibration than you as a human being. I think he's telling you to go. Just think of that for a second. Like, you're a human. When people are saying, I just told my team, I'm like, oh, by next year, I'm just gonna have my jet. We're gonna fly private everywhere. And they're like, don't you think you're stretching it? We fly a lot. That's gonna be a lot. And I said, dude, check this out. said, you're scared of a private jet that we can't get a freaking G550? We can't get a jet. And they're like, I said, we can't fly private 8 to 10 times a month. And they're like, it's gonna, I said, listen, there's a guy, the same way you're fearing to buy the jet, somebody here is fearing to buy this car. There's a human being with their mind that designed the jet and made the jet. Like, this two minds. One is fearing that they can't buy the jet. Another human being's mind has had no fear and they created a jet. They're both the same human mind, both form creation from God. One said, I can create a jet. The other person is scared just to buy one. I said, what are we doing here? I said, you can't fear your goal. You can't be in a state of fear. I said, when you set a goal, you almost got to look at it and be like, done. Can't wait to eat this one.
Yep.
Can't wait for the next one.
All faith.
You can't put the goal, you can't put something materialistic above your human abilities and capabilities.
That's amazing advice. Actually, one of the biggest takeaways I've got from a book this year called Outwitting the Devil was basically saying one of the ways that the devil holds people back from ever even coming close to scratching their potential in life is by filling their minds with fear. Fear is like the number one thing the devil uses to hold people back, which relates exactly to what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question for you. So when people didn't know who you were in your beginning stages, but you obviously knew one day you would be a big name, because you have to have that internal belief. What did you do mentally to stay in the game and keep hustling? Maybe when things weren't happening as fast as you wish they were, and people around you were doubting on you, but you knew in your mind that one day you'd blow it up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always about showing up when there's small, consistent growth that nobody else can see. So it means like most entrepreneurs are winning incrementally, but just in their own mind, people are gonna fool you because they're gonna think, well, he has to show me it all in order to me see that he's winning. So meaning it's like a great entrepreneur can monitor their internal growth inside themselves when nobody else can see them growing. It's like the caterpillar stage. So what I mean by that is, if I make a video on Instagram and I got 700 views, then the next week I make a video on Instagram and I only get another 900 views. And my family's watching me and they're saying, oh, this whole sales training thing, stupid, it's not working out. If I have an event and there's 5 people, the next event I did, there was 9 people. It's still not enough for people to be like, oh, this business is working out. There's the devil right there, by the way. It's saying, hey, there's doubt, worry, and fear. You only got 9 people. This business is still not working out. You're still not making $10,000, $20,000 a week in this. Go back to sales. But here's the deal. I said the ability to see yourself growing when nobody can see you growing. I knew I was growing 4. See, to the outer audience, it only looked like I had 9 people show up to an event. But in my head, I said, no, I've already gained 4. I was looking at the small incremental wins that nobody can ever see. It's like, it's the exact same thing. It's not just business. It goes for fitness and health. Think of people that get discouraged. You go to the gym, in 1 month, you don't have 6-pack abs. Just doesn't work out like that. So then the person goes to the gym and they're like, man, I'm not making it, because they go in the gym and they see somebody like you and they see somebody fit. And I say something like this. I say, okay, it is physically impossible for you to go to the gym and have 6-pack abs within a month, okay? I don't care how your genetics are, what your diet looks like, it's not gonna happen within a month. But I said, do you see yourself being able to do 2 more sit-ups than you had last month? Because that's what nobody's gonna see. They're only gonna compliment you when you go on the beach and you have 6-pack abs. That's the butterfly. But the ability to get those 6-pack abs is to see yourself incrementally growing, doing another 2 sit-ups when nobody else can see you doing the extra 2 sit-ups. I said, in business, you have to know you're growing when nobody else can see you growing. You have to hold on to the wins when your bank account is growing at $7 to $10 every single week, but it's still not enough to go buy a new Mercedes-Benz and stretch it and then go show off, and then boom, you repeat the cycle again because you stretched it out too thin. For me, I always say you have to hold on to the small wins. It's when nobody else can see you jog an extra half a kilometer or an extra 20 steps, but you've seen yourself incrementally grow, but still nobody's clapping. Because the truth of the matter is this, they only see the lows and they only see the highs, meaning they only see you when you quit and they only see when you're on top. That's it. Nobody compliments you in the middle stage. That's the way life works. Nobody compliments you when you're incrementally growing. They only come to you in the end and they say, oh man, I know you could do something like this. You must be so lucky. Yeah, but they didn't compliment you in the caterpillar stage. So my whole advice is like, I've owned my caterpillar stage so well. And even now, I would love to show people, like, I'm still a maniac, by the way. Like, I love when people are like, oh, you're this big deal. I said, no. Like, you guys don't understand. I am hungrier now than even 10 years ago. If you go watch my schedule right now, It would take 20 people to outwork my schedule on the road with what I'm doing right now inside of business. Why? Because what I do right now is a reflection of where I want to go in the next 5 years. So I want people to watch this video and know that I'm sitting down with you right now because it's showing where I want to be in the next 5 years. I'm not stopping right now. Your work ethic today, forget writing down in a journal saying I'm so grateful for my business. You show your gratitude for your business by the way you work your business.
Facts.
So right now, what you guys see, me traveling and doing interviews and sitting down with you, it's just a reflection of where I want to be inside of the future. You will never outperform who you think you could become inside of the future. So if you don't feel like you're going to be somebody big in the next 5 years down the road, if I didn't feel like I'm going to be bigger as a public figure, as a sales trainer, as a mentor, as a source of inspiration, then I wouldn't do this interview today. Because whatever I do today is a reflection of where I want to be inside of the future, right? So I say just monitor. You don't have to tell nobody you're going to be big inside of life. You don't have to tell me that you want more inside of life. I could just see by your actions where you're going to be in the next year. Your actions cannot outperform who you want to be inside of the future, right? So, next question, bro.
That basically answers my next question. This was my exact next question. I saw a post you made the other day. You've already gone on 75 plus flights this year, right? I was gonna say, why are you still going so hard, even though to most people you're already super way more successful than they are? But you already answered that question.
Right.
So how important is it to promote yourself and what you're doing on social media?
Yeah, I think it's a blessing. The world we live in today, it's truly a blessing because, I mean, I grew up where I've watched other mentors and trainers fill up rooms, the people that we know, the Kiyosaki's, the Brian Tracy's, the older guys, and I've watched them fill up rooms of thousands of people, and they did it without social media. And now when somebody's saying, oh, I don't want to post content or I don't want to promote, listen, I've been fortunate enough to do over 700 plus events, and I've done events with 10 people and I've done events with 20,000 plus people in stadiums consistently. And when somebody says they don't want to post, Spencer, I'm like, okay, how many views did you get on your last show? 3,000 people. I say, great. Do you know how big a stadium is of 3,000 people? I do those on the weekend. That's massive. 3,000 people in a stadium is huge. What did you get on your last reel? 500 people. Do you know how big 500 people is in a room? That's a packed out room. 500 people in a room is a packed out room. So when people say I'm discouraged to post content, I said, if you took those views and put it in real life, and maybe you had a reel that blew up and it got 10,000 people, that's a freaking stadium, 10,000 people. So I said, you're looking at like, you're comparing this whole thing, well, I gotta get 1 million views. I said, no. People back then, our mentors back then would wish if they can touch 10,000 lives from sitting down in their bed and clipping out a reel that they made in the morning. I said, the ability that we have is crazy. And the reason why I get motivated is because I see it in real life. How much 15,000 people is in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single one of my reels will get over 25,000 plays, but my biggest event was 30,000 people. And that's a big event, that's a full stadium.
Yeah.
I think that was in probably Minneapolis. When I seen 30,000 people, I said, wow.
That's a lot of heads.
That's a lot of freaking heads, but our reels get that many plays. Our YouTube videos can get that many plays just from one post. So one day I'm sitting down and I'm in Arizona with a friend, Andy Elliott, which you know, and I'm like, Andy, man, we suck. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, we were planning out this gig together, we were planning out this event, and I said, dude, if we can't figure out how to get 5,000-10,000 people in a room, we suck. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, no, we suck. We got to give the baseline. I said, because our mentors that we looked up to did it without social media. They used to pack rooms without social media. Kiyosaki, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, they used to go city to city and they did it without social media. I said, we are doing something wrong if we don't fully utilize this thing. And we're talking about two guys that completely dominated the space. I said, we still got to humble ourselves. We still got work to do. We still have to beat up this platform or we're going to get used by it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still so much room. And people ask me, well, why do you travel so much? And why do you keep doing it? Because still nobody knows who we are. You could think 5 million people is a lot, but it's still nobody. There's 8 billion people in the world. So when I go on stage, I say, raise of hands here. Who's ever heard me speak before on stage? Half of the hands don't go up. And I said, that's exactly why I showed up today. Because you're only as good as yesterday. I said, I can come in with the ego like I've trained over a couple million salespeople, but these people don't know and they don't care. And that's the beauty about sales. The next score that you go knock on, the next call that you go make, the person doesn't know if you just had a bad week. The person doesn't know if you just trained 1 million people. They don't know. The beauty about business is that nobody knows. It's only inside of your own little head. It's only inside of your own little posse. Nobody knows. Nobody knows about us.
Yep.
We go to a different country, nobody knows. That's the beauty about it, that's why I love business. It keeps us on our feet.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Something I've learned, and I've kind of done the same thing in my business. When I was coming into it, the company I currently work for, they were selling life insurance door to door for 75 years.
Wow.
And there was dozens, if not hundreds of people that were already millionaires within the company. Keep in mind, they were limited to only being able to sell to people in their drivable city, and they could only recruit people onto their team within their city, because the only way that they could train someone is if they're in the car together like this, we go to a house and you watch me sell life insurance.
Sure.
So I would tell myself, if hundreds of people could make millions of dollars selling life insurance when it was all in person, I would say the same thing. I suck if I can't make at least $1 million when it's virtual. And now we could sell to people all over the country. I could sell to someone in Pennsylvania at 10 o'clock, Texas at 11 o'clock, California at 12 o'clock. So it opens up more leads. And when I'm growing my team, I can recruit people all over the country, not just people within driving distance. So I would always tell myself the same thing. I would be like, a healthy degrading of myself of like, I suck if I can't at least make $1 million, because the people before me were doing it and they had it way harder than I did.
Correct.
So yeah, very true.
And it's like, it's when people say, oh, talk positively. No, what I think it is this, is you're competing and you're comparing to the right things. Like when people say comparison and competing is wrong, well, I say to who? Like meaning, okay, most people compete and everybody competes and compares, by the way, but most people do it just to feel good about themselves. So they're like, oh yeah, well, my friend is making 1,000, I'm making 2,000 a week. Well, who are you comparing to? Because I know a kid that's 19 that's making 20,000 a week.
Right.
Like competing in comparison is great, but if you use it as a motivational tool.
Right.
Like if you compete and compare to the people above you, not below you.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and if that discourages you, the game of business is not right for you. The game of sales is not right for you.
Yep.
If competing comparison discourages you, then you should get that heck out of business. That's all business is. It's like a sport. When you're in a sport, you look up and you say, we're getting your asses kicked.
Yep.
Right? So, of course.
And I think the same type of self-talk can be used for getting through adversity. Like some people come into sales and they think adversity is, I made $500 this week. Okay, adversity compared to what? Because there's people in Afghanistan that haven't seen their family for 3 years and they're getting bullets shot at them.
Right.
And you're complaining that you only made $500 this week, your first month into a sales opportunity. You're gonna beat yourself up mentally because you think it's way harder than what you're actually going through.
Correct.
If anything, I teach people you gotta be grateful that you made $500 this week. At least you're not in Afghanistan getting bullets shot at you and you haven't seen your family for 2 or 3 years. So you gotta be grateful, not talking negatively and the woe is me, because that's gonna hold you back so much.
Yep.
Okay, for time purposes, I'll skip around. What's the most common mistake you see sales team leaders make that prevents them from growing?
The team from growing, or the organization as a whole?
Yeah, like as the leader of a team that's not growing and they're stunted in growth, what's the number one mistake you think a leader makes that prevents growth?
Yeah, it's what they allow inside of their organization. So I'll give you a good example. It's the language that you allow inside of your organization. I have a very defined line between two distinctive types of languages that your sales reps will give you. Number one is a complaint, number two is a problem. So like I always say, money exchanges from one hand to another hand when a problem is solved. That's it. That's the way life works. It doesn't work because you work hard. You don't make money because you work hard. You don't make money because you're smart. You make money when you solve a problem. By the way, work ethic and education and smarts, that's just an equalizer. You gotta be smart about your product. You gotta be a workaholic. These are just equalizers. That's not your competitive and winning edge, by the way. Like everybody should understand what I just said, aside from your question, that money is not made because you work hard. Money is not made because you're skilled in your profession. Money is made when you solve a problem. Both of those first two things, work ethic and skills, those things are the equalizers, meaning you gotta work hard. You gotta have knowledge about your sales profession and your product. But that is not your winning edge. That is not your competitive edge inside of business. Because if that was, when somebody comes up to me and they're like, well, what time do you wake up? And I said, well, when I wake up. I'm like, why you ask me that? Well, they say, I wake up an extra 3 hours. I know you wake up early too. And I say, okay, but by you thinking you're gonna outwork me, you're just repeating what our grandparents did. All of our parents had great work ethic. I said, that's not your winning edge, that is your equalizer. You must have good work ethic. Like me being a workaholic does not make me Daniel G. Me being skilled at sales does not make me Daniel G. The problems that I solve, and if you're in your profession, It's coming straight on for us. If you're in your profession, the problems that you solve is what makes you money. So let's say, for example, well, Daniel, what problems can I solve if I'm in sales? That's a no. A no, that's a problem. If you're a team leader, how many problems can you solve? Yourself and for somebody else. The problems in which you solve throughout the day is your level of your paycheck. So most people don't think of that. When I said what money exchanges from one hand to another hand when a problem is solved. Now, why did I say that? Because as a sales leader, most sales leaders don't know how to set the standard of their way for their team to communicate with them. So usually, if I'm part of Spencer's team and I'm just, third week inside of the gig and I go up to Spencer, I'm like, man, it's really hard in Miami to recruit people inside my team, Spencer. And now you go fuel that, that's a complaint.
Right.
That's not a problem.
That's not
a problem. A problem would be different. See, that's a complaint. That's just that it's hard. A real problem, a leader would turn to that individual and say, but Daniel, where? What do you mean? Well, what do you mean, Spencer, where? Yeah, like, where do you mean it's hard to recruit people? Do you mean, like, you go ask them a question and then they say, no, thank you, I'm not interested? Like, give me the specific problem that you're dealing with. See, problem-based language means this. I tried something, I ran into something, I want to solve something.
Right.
That's a whole different flow of conversation now. Hey, Spencer, by the way, I reached out to 25 people on Instagram. They said XYZ back to me. What would you do differently so I can uncover that barrier to get to my next step with my prospect? You tried it, you ran into a problem and you want to solve it. That's problem-based language, not complaint-based language.
Right.
So I said, if leaders can set to their team a standard of saying, hey guys, this is how we communicate with each other. We want to make money inside of life. We don't complain to each other. We just give each other problems. Problems equal money. I like problems. Give me a specific problem that you're dealing with. Don't just give me a general complaint. A specific problem means you tried it, you ran into a roadblock, and you want advice on it.
Right.
And when you set the standard of everybody giving problems, that's healthy. Because when the problem is solved, you make money inside of life.
Right.
When you try to solve a complaint, it goes nowhere. So now people inside of my life, they don't complain to me. It just doesn't register. Whether it's a family member, a friend, or an employee, nobody in their life will complain to me because it doesn't register inside of my head. But they're allowed to give me a problem. They're allowed to say, hey, Daniel, I tried this. This is not working out specifically. I even tried to go get some advice on it. What would you do differently? Okay, I like that.
Right.
So it's just setting the standard of how your team communicates with you.
100%. Yeah, and I feel like sometimes people come into virtual sales, what I do, and they think, like you said, just working hard is gonna be what makes them the money. But like you said, like that's just bare minimum. That's required. You're obviously never gonna make a lot of money if you don't work hard. But in our business, where's the problem solved? The first problem is when you're selling, everyone starts out as a sales agent. The problem is our clientele doesn't have money in their bank account to pay for a funeral, which can cost $15,000 to $30,000.
Correct.
So we come in, we solve that problem, we sell them life insurance. So when their family member passes away, there's money to pay for a funeral. They don't have to sell the house, pick up an extra job, nothing like that. But in leadership, I think the reason there's so much money in leadership, and the problem I'm trying to solve being in leadership and recruiting, the problem is this. There's so many people out there who want the ability to make a lot of money, but because of the school system, their brains don't understand that there's sales careers out there that if they plugged in their hard work, they could make 6 or 7 figures with no college degree. I think that's a problem. So where I come in with the solution is I get their attention. Hey, there's a solution to you wanting to make a lot of money if you don't have a college degree, but you're willing to work hard. The solution is you got to get into sales, and I'm going to recruit you into sales and solve that problem. Me solving the problem of these people who never thought they could be successful and giving them an opportunity to become successful is the reason that I can make good money. It's because I'm solving a problem. It's not just because I'm working hard and posting stuff on social media.
Correct. So and you're solving an economical problem that was never taught to us. Like the thing is, we wake up and we go against that system, that education system. That's a big problem.
Yep.
Like I do that too every single day, dude. I'm an advocate. When people ask me, they're like, well, what is it exactly, you're doing? I'm like, I'm an advocate for my sales career. I'm an advocate for sales in general. It doesn't have to be for my sales opportunity. I'm an advocate for what you do. I wake up in the morning and I say commissions is the best.
Yep.
And somebody else is gonna hate on me and say, no, salary is the best. And I say, no, commissions is freedom. And they say salary is freedom. I say commissions is safety and security. And they say, no, salary is safety and security. And I'm just going out there every single day. But you know what? The ability to do it where it's not a battle almost, and you make it more so of a dance. Meaning like our job, if we were to battle with people and get all aggravated, then they'll never come in. Our job is to make it a dance and to break the mold from people. And that's exactly what you do. You make it a dance and you're like, wait, if I got to do certain things to break the mold from this individual, to make them think differently, like, dude, this, I'm gonna tell you 150%, and I don't know you at the deepest personal level. This car means so much more to somebody else than it even does to you, and I know that because you're like me. I had nice cars throughout my whole life. They meant nothing to me. And you know what I said to myself? You know what it means to me? When I can get a guy that looks at this car and says, what do you do for a living? Like, I don't even know what's inside of my cars. I'll be honest with you. I have no freaking clue what's inside of my cars. My guys know what's in my cars. I don't even know what's inside of my cars. They're like, oh, you have this feature, blah, blah. For me, it's just a mold breaker. I'm like, okay, I understand that the average human, right, is gonna be like, they're not gonna come to me if I'm just walking, but they're gonna come to me and ask me, what do I do for a living if I have this car? So I'm gonna get one because I know I can serve this well on the back end. Like, I know my product is amazing on the back end, my business, your business is amazing on the back end, that if there has to be certain things that break the mold from an individual and a car is one, I will do it. You know, I will get one because this is just a byproduct of what we do. Right?
You're
so,
exactly right.
yeah, man, I just go back to saying, like, you know, for me, I'm a huge advocate of the sales business and you know, preaching that commissions is freedom. We've never been taught that. And the last thing, I think it's crazy that we've been brought up in a world, like, just think of this, Spencer, we've been brought up in a world where we're surrounded by 8 billion humans. Yet there was no course in the world that said this is how you're gonna communicate with a human. Like, that is crazy. There's no course in the world that said you're gonna be in a relationship, this is how you're gonna communicate when you get in an argument with your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. To me, that was crazy. I said, wow, and you don't think we've been scammed inside of life? That they haven't even taught us the most basic forms of communication with our family members? Forget sales, forget it, okay? Fine, I'm biased, I love sales. We both got shirts on that says sales and sales. Okay, fine, forget that. How about just human communication? How about communicating with your mother, your father, when you're in an argument, and how to lower the frequency of that argument so you can actually have proper communication and get to an end result? How about just that? How about communicating when you want to go for Chinese food and your wife wants to go to Indian and you got to do some sort of influence? How about communicating when you got to get a job? How about just shaking somebody's hand and looking them in the eye and say, hi, by the way, my name's Daniel G. Nobody's ever taught us how to do that. You go to human beings now, hey, dude, we're getting smoked because there's so much social media out there. If you go walk into a store and somebody's servicing you in just a retail store, the kid's not even looking at you anymore. His face is on the ground, his eyes are on the ground because he's not even taught communication anymore. We got a bigger duty and obligation than ever today.
Amazing. All right, last question. We're pulling back into Daniel's spot now. Let me get a good one. I want to make it personal to you. So I know your shirts say, what do they say? Buy the dream, sell the dream, live the dream?
Correct.
Where'd you come up with that, and what does that mean to you?
So one day I'm sitting in my office, this is like 4 years ago. One guy's like, oh, he's just selling the dream. I'm on a live stream. And I said, you're right. And because I've always been ridiculed, and everybody gets ridiculed for this. You do too. Whether you see it or not, people are gonna say, Spencer's just selling the dream. And one day I said, wait. Yes, you're right. Because there's somebody else selling the nightmare of what I just talked about for the last 10 minutes. I said, wait, yeah, we're selling the dream. The dream is whatever the dream is for you, by the way. Your dream doesn't have to be rolling around in a Ferrari. Your dream can just be living an amazing life with your family and having stability. But I said, I'm gonna sell you a better life than selling you a nightmare that you can't do it. So I said this, why is my saying buy the dream, sell the dream, live the dream? Buy the dream means you gotta buy into your dreams every single day. You gotta buy into them, meaning like you have to buy into them with your mind that you can achieve something like this, because if not, you're gonna have no energy if you don't buy into your dreams. Most people don't redream. Again, my energy today is because I have a new dream for tomorrow, or I'm not gonna have energy today. You and I wanna grow. So I said, you gotta buy into your dreams every single day. And not just that, when you buy into it, you gotta sell somebody else that they can also live their dream too as well. You gotta sell them the fact, hey, by the way, you can have a better life. I wake up every single day, so do you, selling a dream life to somebody rather than selling a nightmare to somebody and saying, hey man, you know, let's just settle out. That's somebody else selling you the nightmare. So I said, if you're not buying into your dreams, you bought a nightmare. If you're not selling somebody else the dream, you're selling them a nightmare. And then eventually you do that enough, you can live your dream. I said, you can live your dream eventually at one point. This, like right now, I'm living the dream that I wanted 5 years ago. I wanted to always be in Miami since I was young. And then I say, you do that and then you repeat it one more time. You buy another dream inside of your head. You sell another dream to somebody else, whatever that dream looks like. When you're in sales, you don't know it. But when you sold a policy to somebody else, you don't know that, but you're selling a better lifestyle, a dream within that client that they've never had the ability to pay for a funeral expense before,
right?
It's like, I have this analogy inside of life, Spencer, where I'm like, you're either a gift and a blessing towards somebody or you're an interruption. I don't feel like I'm ever an interruption to somebody inside of life. I feel like whatever I do, I'm blessing somebody. And I said most people move inside of their business because they feel like they're an interruption, and that's why they're nervous. They're like, I don't want to call another client. I don't want to prospect my friend. You think you're an interruption to that person, but if you just seen the outcome of that first interaction that you have, and you don't know 6 years down the road, you just changed that person's life, you are literally Santa. You are giving a gift every single time you call on somebody or you talk to somebody. But sometimes when you don't see that, you think you're an interruption. So I say in life, you're either a gift to an individual or you're an interruption. You're either a blessing towards somebody's life or you have the perception that you're an interruption towards somebody's life. So I just always feel like I'm doing good. That's why I said in the beginning of the podcast, I said, you can never outperform who you think you are inside of your own head. So if you think you're an interruption, you're gonna move scared. If you think you're a blessing, you're always gonna move with excitement.
Wow. Thank you, Daniel.
This was wicked, dude. This was wicked.
Hey, to everyone watching, remember, you guys don't have to pay Daniel. This is all free. And I can't even just, from being in business for 5 years and going through what I've gone through on a small level, I can't imagine how many trials and tribulations Daniel's been through, how much money he's invested into the knowledge that he has and the brand that he's built. And you guys are getting all of that 15 years of experience, time, and money for free. So to show appreciation, share this video with a friend, like it, drop a comment, follow Daniel on Instagram. The best is yet to come. God is great. Daniel, again, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching.